Hello everybody and welcome back to the United Stand. How are we all feeling? There's been quite a significant amount of time that has passed, but I am still so frustrated. Let's get into it. On today's show, we have some news to get into and we also have some feelings to express. So we have fresh updates on Joshua Zirkzee and Kobbie Mainoo's future from David Ornstein. We have fresh updates on the possibility of bringing in Joao Gomes in January. Negotiations taking place, or are they being hyped up a little bit in the media? Are we actually in for this deal? We're going to discuss it. There's two different sides coming out around Joao Gomes and how realistic is that player? Would you take him? Are we desperate for him after the performance that we saw last night? Also, Conor Gallagher, apparently a queue of Premier League clubs in the race to sign Conor Gallagher. I'm going to be so real. I was like, no, Conor Gallagher. After that last night's performance, pretty much anybody would do a job in our midfield. And also, the big one that I really want to get into, Semenyo. David Ornstein did say we weren't really in the race. Well, that is starting to change. Can Manchester United step up their efforts to go and get Semenyo? We have a fresh update on him as well. Gary Neville has had some criticism regarding Amorim and the team. Do you agree with him? We're going to get into that. And we're just going to discuss a little bit about Rúben Amorim and his future as well. I really don't like being reactionary and I have to really try and calm myself down before I come on these shows. But last night was absolutely dreadful. And a lot of you, I'm hoping, tuned into the fans forum. If you didn't, I would recommend watching that later on today when you've got a bit of time. But if you didn't tune into the fans forum, I was fuming then, I'm fuming now. Do you know when you wake up and sometimes you wake up and you're like, did I go a little bit over the top? Oh, you know what? There's always the next game. For me, that Everton performance was writing on the wall. It really was, in the sense of it's killed off my hope for the season because we will have games like that again. You can just feel it. It showed to me that this system really struggles to score goals against a low block, which we've seen multiple times before. And I think the main thing that really nailed it home to me is that we've got 10 men. At Old Trafford, the majority of the game, Everton sit in and they say, come on, show us what this system can do. Play that football that you work on in training. We had no answers. We cannot play against a team that is just going to sit there and let us play. We couldn't string 3 passes together. And I think that's really a big sign that Rúben Amorim's message either isn't getting through to these players or these players cannot play the system and Rúben Amorim cannot get the system working on a consistent basis. It's really, really, really frustrating. And it really has kind of killed off my hopes for the rest of the season, to be honest with you. I know we've got Palace on Sunday and we all want to try and get back up for the game, but last night was I said it was worse than Grimsby for me because Rúben Amorim had from the 13th minute, was it, to affect that game, couldn't affect it. Everton were better than us from minute 1. We played into their hands from minute 1. And even when they had a man sent off, we continued to play into their hands. And we continued to fail to create anything. And there was no plan B, there was no substitutions that impacted the game. The substitutions were like for like rather than changing the way that the team was playing. And I thought a lot of them were too late. That performance for me was massively on the manager. And don't get me wrong, the players don't get off scot-free and you do have to criticise the players and you have to look at the squad and think, are certain players good enough? But there is some players in that team that are good enough. There is some players that are good quality players. And if the majority of your players are playing poorly or look poor, then I think that reflects badly on the manager and his tactical setup. If basically 9 or 10 out of 11 players look really, really poor, that reflects on the manager's instruction. And as much as I want to back the manager, as much as I want him to be successful, we're a year in now. What do we have to show for a year in? And that's the question I keep asking myself. I'm pretty sure we've won 12 Premier League games within a year. Within a year. And people say, well, what about Liverpool? What about Brighton? And we will win games with that system. We have to. We've got players that have quality. And when players come out and play and press us high and come at us, sometimes we can get in behind. But for the majority of the time, we look so inconsistent. We look so inconsistent and we look like we've got a lack of ideas. So I am frustrated, to be honest with you. Is it 12 wins? Can someone confirm that for me? I'm pretty sure it is, but I just want to double check because I don't have the stat right here in front of me. I did see it earlier this morning. And the stubbornness is for me as well. Someone just mentioned that. And we will get into the news in a second. The stubbornness. Yesterday, and I'm not blaming any individuals because mostly everyone was poor. But yesterday, you have 3 centre-backs on the pitch, dilly-dallying around with the ball, not being able to break through the lines. And it was clear and obvious we could not build up. We could not build up any sort of chance. And the same thing kept happening over and over and over and over again. And Amorim didn't change anything. He takes Dorgu off, who was poor, like most people was poor. For Dallo, who's been really poor recently, who's not left-footed, kills the width, when you could have just taken a centre-back off early doors, put in another attacking player and move Luke Shaw to left-back, who's one of the best left-footed crosses in the team. And yeah, OK, Luke Shaw did push up, but still, for the majority of the time, we had 3 centre-backs dilly-dallying with it at the back, not being able to penetrate through the lines. And I'm not even blaming the centre-backs. The tactical setup was disastrous. And do you know what I saw yesterday as well? Brian Mbeumo looking visibly annoyed. And you expect the players to look annoyed. You're losing a game you should be winning. Professional pride. But I bet he sat there thinking, what am I playing with? He's the best player by a country mile. He was the only shining light yesterday. And Ahmad at times. At times, Ahmad was good. And you could tell he was giving it all he's got, that's for sure. But Mbeumo's the best player once again. And he's looking around thinking, what is going on? He's working the hardest, or one of the hardest workers. He looks the most up for it. He's the best technically. He's our biggest goal threat. Any chance we kind of got all came through Mbeumo just being individually great. So it wasn't good, and it was sad to see Mbeumo working his absolute socks off, continually going over and over again, with no one finding his runs. Then he was taking the initiative to put crosses into the box. Nobody being able to get onto his good crosses. Nobody being on his level, and then when he's working really hard to get the ball back, there's people just giving it away, and Bruno gave it away with a really poor ball into Zirkzee, and Mbeumo had to try and win it back and got a yellow card off the back of it. It was just dysfunctional. It really was dysfunctional. I'm already getting into it because I'm just frustrated because it feels like a cycle over and over again. But that yesterday, and I'm not even going over the top, match-going fans, that was a real shift I saw yesterday. I go to every home game, and yesterday was the most visibly annoyed I saw the match-going fans in a long time. People were fuming in the stands. I was fuming in the stands. You guys, whether you watched it at Old Trafford, whether you watched it over in Australia, you were probably fuming watching that. All around the world, the fan base were really frustrated, and Amorim didn't have anywhere to hide because he had an open goal. He could have gone out there and played his football and showed what we were about against 10 men, and he just couldn't affect the game at all. It was really frustrating to watch. So it was big alarm bells yesterday for me, big question marks, and I really am worried about if we're actually going to be able to get to that point where we all want us to be, which is winning games on a consistent basis, because we don't seem to ever have a plan B. We don't seem to ever want to stray away from the basic principles, and the basic principles at the moment seem to be lacklustre, barely creating any chances, and hoping Brian Mbeumo can pull off something really good to score us some goals. Like that's what it seems to be. So it's frustrating. I'm frustrated. Let me know how you guys are thinking and feeling. But that's the most annoyed I think I've been since Amorim's been in charge. Europa League final was absolutely gutted, fuming. Ange Postecoglou's Spurs beat us, and we barely even showed any fight in the Europa League final. Again, another game where Amorim had no plan B. Didn't affect the game at all. Europa League final against Spurs, who were shocking, by the way. Ange got sacked. They were shocking. And they still are hit and miss. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're really poor. And we didn't even make a play for that game in the Europa League final. And that in itself was embarrassing for Manchester United standards. And then this one was next in line. People talk about Grimsby. Grimsby's, I wouldn't like to call it a fluke, but it's a one-off, loads of individual errors. It's in the League Cup. You know, I'm frustrated. Yeah, I am frustrated. But that Europa League final and that game last night were the two games where I have been absolutely, I couldn't even tell you how annoyed I was leaving Old Trafford and how annoyed I was when I was in Bilbao. I was so frustrated and it just feels like we're hitting that brick wall again. I'm annoyed, but get your comments in and let me know what you're thinking and what you're feeling, and let's get into the news as well. So I want to start off with it is 12 Premier League wins under Amorim. I think it is 12 Premier League wins under Amorim. Thank you very much for everyone helping me out with that one. It's just not good enough. We've 12 months in charge, you've got 12 wins. It needs to be better for Manchester United standards. Let's get into Joao Gomes. Can Joao Gomes help us out? That is the question. Can anybody in that midfield help us out? Well, Manchester United are in active negotiations with Wolves for midfielder Joao Gomes with a potential fee of around 43 million. There is optimism from both United and the players' camp that the deal will be completed before the end of the year, setting up a January 1st arrival. And that is coming out from Globo over in Brazil. So Joao Gomes is Brazilian, 24-year-old midfielder at Wolves. Wolves are set to be relegated. It's still early doors in the season, but I'd be very, very surprised if they managed to get themselves out of that relegation spot, to be honest with you. From what I've seen so far this season, for the lack of goals they can score, the lack of games they can win, I'd be shocked if they don't get relegated. So they are on track for relegation. Manchester United have held long-term interest in Joao Gomes. Do you go and get him for 40-odd million in January before Wolves risk losing him for less money in the summer? They could be open to sell him. We've heard this. Ornstein said this around it. He said sources around the Molyneux are playing down the likelihood of a move right now. No club-to-club talks have taken place yet. However, if Wolves are in relegation danger in January, they may consider cashing in on Gomes. He also said, Ornstein, that United are monitoring alternative midfield options, Elliot Anderson, Adam Wharton and Carlos Baleba. So we know about these options. For me, Elliot Anderson is leaps ahead of anybody else that we've been linked to. We have to go and get him. We're Manchester United. We should be getting the best. No messing about going for cheaper alternatives because we don't want to spend the money. Go and get Elliot Anderson. He's the best midfielder on the market for Manchester United. Go and get him. There's no if and buts. I don't care if he costs 100 million. Based on the information that I've been told, I'm very doubtful that Elliot Anderson's going to cost 100 million or even close to 100 million. I suspect you could get him out of Forest for around 60, 70 million come the summer. It's an absolute no-brainer. You've got to go and get him in the summer. Our midfield has been an issue for years. I've been at the United stand. I think I've been in and around the United stand for about 5 years now. Well, I'm 24. I started doing like bits and pieces when I was 19. So yeah, 5 years. When I came onto the channel, I think one of my first videos was about how McFred wasn't working. McTominay and Fred wasn't working, McFred. And that's the midfield then. By the way, would love McFred now. They'd put a shift in. I mean, that was the midfield then that wasn't working. And that was when we were finishing second in the league under Ollie. So the midfield's been neglected for a very, very long time. Go and spend the money. We've spent millions on strikers that aren't at the level that we need. Go and spend the money on a Premier League proven midfielder who can walk into our midfield and dominate, and that is Elliot Anderson. You know, we spent how much on Højlund? 70-odd million. Spent how much on Sesko? 70-odd million. And I'm still backing Sesko to come good and do really well. He's only been here for a short time. But I'm more than happy to take risks with a lot of money on prospect signings. There's a player right there in Elliot Anderson who's Premier League proven, going to the World Cup. He's one of the best up-and-coming midfielders in the Premier League. He's perfect for that role. Go and spend the money. Don't cheap out. Don't cheap out on it. Go and spend the money. So Elliot Anderson has to be one of them. No, Beth, not 100 million. Calm down, says user. If Elliot Anderson costs 100 million, we should spend 100 million to get him. I don't think he will. I think it will be around 70. But if he cost 100 million, he's worth 100 million for what impact he will have on Manchester United. I stand by that. Maybe I'm just emotional right now, but I genuinely stand by that. For the impact that he could have on this team, I think it'll be worth it. I mean, you could be in a situation where you go and spend 50 on one midfielder and 50 on another, and they both don't end up being anywhere near good enough. I mean, we blew near enough 60 million on Ugarte, and we've got loads to show for that one. Sometimes you just got to spend on the player that is going to be the best player. 100 million is a lot of money. Like I said, I don't think he'll cost 100 million, but if it was 100 million and you did have to pay that, you've got a guaranteed starter really for the next how many years who, look at how well he's doing, who is Premier League proven, can come straight in, can hit the ground running, has all the attributes we want. It's safe money. It's a lot of money, but it's safe money. So, yeah, maybe I'm just so frustrated with yesterday's performance that I'm hell-bent on that now, but I really do think he's absolutely worth it. And like I said, I'll come back to this, but I think it'll be around 70 when we do eventually try and go for him. That's if we do actually manage to convince him to join, because for that to happen, we have to try and get European football, which, and again, I don't want to be too reactionary. I am very, very, very worried about this. I mean, it couldn't be an easier league right now to go and try and get Champions League football or European football. I mean, Chelsea are in second and Chelsea aren't good. But whenever we're given any opportunity to climb up the table or to prove that we are a solid team, we fumble it. Brentford, we fumbled it. Yesterday, they got a man sent off for slapping their own player that probably shouldn't have even been a sending off. In the 13th minute at Old Trafford, you can literally... Champions League spots are right there. Don't make a play for it. So I'm worried about the European spots, and you'd have to get European spots to convince a player like Anderson to join, because he's going to have other teams lining up for him. But it's definitely somebody that we have to go for if we want to be the best. Just on Joao Gomes, by the way, I know Ornstein said that sources around Wolves are playing it down. They're going to, aren't they? The thing is with Wolves right now, they've just brought in a new manager, Rob Edwards. They're going to want to commit to him, and them selling one of their best players in January when he's supposed to be making a play to stay up in the Premier League might be a little bit discouraging and might send the message that they've already given up on staying in the Premier League. So I can understand why they wouldn't want to sell on that basis. But also sometimes you've got to wake up and smell the coffee. Are you going to get out of relegation? Unlikely. Never say never. Unlikely. I'd be sad for Wolves to get relegated, to be honest with you. I know we've had our issues against them, but I feel like they're a staple Premier League team now, but I think it is looking that way. Sometimes you just got to be realistic. Are we actually going to get out of this relegation battle? How much money are we going to get for Joao Gomes in the summer when we could get 40 million for him in January? And I think they will have that debate internally. Maybe say we'll spend money on you to get back into the Premier League, and put it that way for Rob Edwards. But I absolutely think if Manchester United come knocking for Joao Gomes in January and they begin club-to-club talks, I think Wolves will be open to it just because they want the money in before they lose him for less money in the summer, which is what's on track to happen. So would you go for Joao Gomes is my thing. At this moment in time, why not? He's got heart, he's got passion. He would add more to the midfield than what we've currently got in there, which isn't hard. He's Premier League proven, and he is of a really good age to come in and have an impact over the course of multiple years. I like him. I don't think he's on the level of an Anderson. I don't think he's on the level of a Wharton. He's a different type of player. He's more of that Ugarte style player. However, I do believe he is an improvement on the depth that we currently have, and I think he would come in and make a difference for sure. We've got no energy in that midfield. The midfield looks like it looks like we're running on 10% battery. Do you know when your phone's about to die and it goes into low power mode? That's what our midfield looks like. It looks like we've gone into low power mode. And he's got energy. He's tenacious. He gets around the pitch really well. If he's there in January for a good price, he's a good age. He's coming on a decent wage. I'd look at that. We need some physicality in there. We need someone who has that pace, who has that aggression. And at this moment in time, we just don't look like we have that. And what else worries me is that Amorim doesn't change a team based on the opposition that we're playing against as well. It's so obvious that Bruno and Casemiro were going to struggle against an Everton midfield. Even when they had one of them sent off, they still struggled. Because Everton's midfield is tenacious, it's physical, it will bully you, and that midfield combination does not do well against a physical midfield. Bruno Fernandes typically doesn't fare well against a physical midfield. Casemiro was basically left on his own as Bruno Fernandes went pressing to the last man. And there was gaps in the midfield, and not only was there gaps, they bullied us. Even with one less player, they bullied us. Constantly shoving us off the ball, constantly getting in front of us, constantly first to the second ball, and looked like they could get around the pitch better than us as well. Looked more mobile than us. So Amorim should have adjusted to that. I understand he's not got a massive depth of squad, but he should have changed it, I think. He should have had the confidence to change it earlier than what he did. It wasn't just them two, the whole team was poor, but our midfield needs something, and it needs something very, very quickly, because Casemiro and Bruno work in certain games, but they really don't work in other games, and against Everton they got found out, they really did. And it's like, even when Mainoo comes on, people say, well, look at his cameo, that's why he doesn't play that's why he rarely plays. He gets brought in really difficult circumstances, and to play a position that isn't even his best position. He should be playing as an advanced 8. He got brought on for Casemiro yesterday. It's really difficult to try and make an impact when that's the type of cameos that you are being handed, when your team is in a really difficult position as well. Ian Tracy S7 says, we all know the squad needs improving, but the lack of adaptability from Amorim last night was just alarming. It was the worst game since the Europa League final. Ian Tracy took the words right out of my mouth. It's not acceptable. Last night just is not acceptable in the slightest. And you look at it and you think, Real Madrid are currently top of La Liga, and apparently their fan base is a little bit disgruntled with Alonso because they feel like the football that they're playing could be better. I mean, would you take Alonso at United? I know he's got them Liverpool connections, but he's a really good coach. The top of La Liga, and they're disgruntled. That's Real Madrid standards. Liverpool, you know, there's genuine debate whether Arne Slot should go. He's just won the Premier League. And we finished 15th last season, lost the Europa League final to Spurs, of all teams, and we've just 12 wins in a year. 12 wins in a year under Rúben Amorim, and yesterday was just a really, really big red flag of lack of adaptability. And people are still sat here saying, oh, well, maybe we just need a few more transfer windows. Look, I hope that's the case. I hope nothing more that that's the case. But I cannot go on any longer seeing Manchester United be this poor, be a laughingstock. I'm sick of it. I'm genuinely so sick of it. 12 wins in a year. And yeah, it was good beating Liverpool, beating Brighton. It did feel like we had some steps forward, but it's just like 2 steps forward, 20 steps back, it feels like sometimes. And even Gary Neville said, do we have to give credit to anybody really for picking up a few more points? They spend a lot of money. They shouldn't be in the position they are in anyway. And that was Gary Neville sort of questioning whether manager Rúben Amorim deserves any credit for United's recent improvements. And of course, you know, when you beat Liverpool, we're all dancing around the studio, we're all buzzing. When we beat Brighton, when we're used to getting spanked to them, it feels like a step forward, and we're all really, really happy about it. But when you actually pull it back, you do have to admit it's 12 wins in 12 months. And there is some really big problems within that squad and within the setup. So it's difficult. It really is difficult, because I want Rúben Amorim to succeed. I want us to win. I want us to play some good, exciting football. But near enough, every player is being played out of the best position. What players have improved within the last year? And I think to myself, it's the only reason we've actually picked up a few more points this season, because we've improved the squad within the summer window. Mbeumo is a class player. Cunha is a very good player. Seny Lammens is a big upgrade on Andre Onana. I know we should have maybe done better yesterday, but he's a big upgrade, let's be honest. Maybe the team's just got a little bit better, which is why we're picking up more points. It's kind of this roundabout I keep going within my head, but I can't put up with these standards for much longer. I really, really can't. I'm going to be so honest, guys. Just kind of laying it out there today. So that was it on Joao Gomes. And just to kind of bring in Conor Gallagher on that as well. Also, guys, remember, this is a good time. Just take a little breather. And remember as well that we have Christmas jumpers in the description. Lead up to Christmas, a lot of Christmas fixtures. How are Manchester United going to fare? Get your Christmas jumper and join us with wearing it throughout the Christmas period. It is limited edition based off the third kit. Go and get yourselves one, nice and warm for these winter months. And remember that competition I wish we were playing in, but we're nowhere near at that level. Champions League is back on That's Football tonight with Chelsea versus Barcelona. Will Rashford play? There was rumours he was ill. I think he will play. Chelsea versus Barcelona. It could be Garnacho versus Rashford. Both of them deemed not good enough for Rúben Amorim's side, but both of them playing in the Champions League, it seems. And don't get me wrong, I'm in agreement that both of them were causing problems at Manchester United, and it was best to move on. But again, that's just another. I mean, I want Rashford to do well. Academy graduate that's come through the ranks, and it was disappointing when it didn't work out. But again, it's just embarrassing that players that weren't performing at Manchester United are now playing in a Champions League clash, and we're nowhere near Champions League. Anyway, Bomb Squad Derby, says Eugene. Let me get into, speaking of bomb squads, I want to talk about Zirkzee and Mainoo. So this is what David Ornstein has had to say on the future of Kobbie Mainoo and Joshua Zirkzee. He said it's too early to make any definitive statements with the January window still weeks away. With Zirkzee, West Ham have shown interest. Reports linking him to Roma are not accurate, says Ornstein. Joshua Zirkzee has failed to impress in his first start of the season. And Chris Wheeler from the Daily Mail added into this. With the manager likely to prefer a false nine like Mason Mount or Bruno Fernandes for the next match, a January loan is viewed as the best solution to salvage his World Cup hopes with a permanent move in the summer. So just on that with Ornstein, he's saying that the links to Roma are inaccurate, which is strange because he's been linked to Roma a lot. He said the links to West Ham are there and they have shown interest. And then Chris Wheeler of the Daily Mail comes in and says it's like that Amorim's going to prefer a Mason Mount or a Bruno Fernandes as a false nine in the next match if Benjamin Sesko still isn't available, which we suspect he won't be. So I think that's very damning for Zirkzee. I feel for Zirkzee, and I've got to hold my hands up. I thought he was better than that last night. He wasn't good. He wasn't good last night, and I expected to see better. I expected to see someone with a bit between the teeth. I actually think when Zirkzee gets going, he's got the potential to be a bit of a baller, but then maybe last night was a bit of a reality check that he's not as good as I thought he was. Maybe it's because I've just, built it up in my head because I wasn't happy with what I saw previously up front either. But he didn't go out there last night and demand a starting spot in the next game for sure. And he's got bits to his game that are nice, but I wanted to see more hunger. I wanted to see more aggression. He's not exactly, an out-and-out striker that's going to be ruffling up defenders. He did get a few decent headers in, but I still think he should have done better. The one Pickford saved was a great header, but there was another one where I think he should have done better with it. A lot of crosses come into the box and maybe not enough movement, so didn't cover himself in glory. We've also got to remember that he's not match sharp at all. He's not played 90 minutes this season. I think the one game he's played in was against Burnley at Old Trafford, which was weeks ago. When you're not playing games, your match fitness is going to be off and it takes time to get into it. And I think he's got a bit of pre-season fitness right now, and people calling Zirkzee out. What about the rest of the team that have been playing week in, week out? Who looked like I said, they were playing on low battery mode. What about that? Because Zirkzee, I'm not making excuses, he should have done better, but he's not match fit. The rest of the team, what's their excuse? They were really poor as well. So, like I said, for me, I'm not even calling out individuals. The whole team was poor. Zirkzee was poor, yes, but the only three players that can maybe have a slight kind of exclusion from yesterday's game was definitely Mbeumo for me. I think he was the only one who was actually decent. I thought Ahmad was decent in patches, but oftentimes too greedy and was just a little bit sloppy. But he was really giving it, and he was probably he was hit and miss. And then De Ligt, I thought was cleaned up really well at the back whenever they Everton had any rare opportunity. But yeah. The whole team were poor, to be honest with you. And then on Mainoo, no progress on a new contract. No progress on a new contract coming from David Ornstein. trying to get the words out of my mouth. His current deal runs to 2027 with a 1-year extension option. If he were to leave, United would want a replacement lined up. If Mainoo went in January, that means we'd probably definitely get Joao Gomes in. But again, I don't think that is I don't think it's an improvement. I don't. Joao Gomes, I think, would be decent, but I don't want to see Mainoo go off the back of it. And I was looking at something earlier, and it kind of really made me think, and I just want to quickly get it up here. I have it on my phone because I screenshotted it to send to my brother. Hold on. Let me get this up here. I screenshotted it and I really want to bring it in. Where are we? It was... Did I? Oh, I can't find it. But it was basically a tweet saying, you know, we got rid of McTominay and brought Ugarte in, and we got rid of James Garner and brought in Mason Mount. We got rid of Malacia and we've brought in Dorgu. It's like, we get rid of players that at the time we don't think are good enough and probably aren't good enough. But then we replace them with players that aren't better than them on a weekly basis. So it's like we're either just stagnating or sometimes it's a drop-off. It's quite rare that we're replacing players with much bigger upgrades, which is, again, just, you've got to look at the ownership on that. You've got to look at who's making these decisions. And with INEOS and their recruitment team, it's got better. It's definitely got better. This summer is the big one for me. Last summer, people lauded it. It was okay. This summer, I think we've done pretty well. But it's not groundbreaking enough yet to give it a massive, massive, massive round of applause. The Cunha and Mbeumo signings are the best 2 signings we've done. De Ligt was a really good signing last season. But apart from that, there's hits and misses, isn't there? And Lenny Yoro was a good keep to get from Real Madrid when Real Madrid were going to go and get him and Liverpool were trying to get him. But like Ricky said in the fans forum yesterday, is he a starter right now or is he one for the future? Probably one for the future. I mean, he can start games for sure, but he's not a Gabriel or a Saliba yet. And we need that level, don't we? And again, I'm not just highlighting Lenny Yoro. There's multiple players in this team that are like this, but we don't massively improve our squad year after year. We've kind of stagnated or brought in players that are drop-offs, which is really frustrating. Someone just mentioned about Dean Henderson as well going to Palace, and yeah, Dean Henderson, I wouldn't, and that's been and gone. It's been and gone, but he would have been better than Onana. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. And the next one I wanted to talk about was from David Ornstein. He's changed his tune a little bit, David Ornstein. He mentioned that it was mainly City and Liverpool and Spurs that were in the race for Anton Semenyo, and Manchester United's interest in Anton Semenyo dated back to last summer, but now they've moved on. Well, he's recently said, this is the latest fresh update on Semenyo from David Ornstein, that Manchester United's interest in Anton Semenyo is ongoing. So Manchester United's interest in Anton Semenyo is ongoing, according to David Ornstein, coming from NBC Sports. And that's exactly what Ben Jacobs said to us on the last show. Ben Jacobs stated there is absolutely still interest there from Manchester United. It has been ongoing since we were first interested in him, which was the start of this year. We had conversations with him in March. So Man United are still interested in Semenyo. I've kind of spoke to a few people and United definitely hold interest. Would Semenyo go to United? I think he would be open to the move, is what I'm hearing. But there's going to be other clubs that might be a little bit more urgent. Liverpool are very, very urgent on this deal, and especially with their results at the moment, they'll feel like they need to go out there and go again and double down and go and get it done. Will they be able to offer him more game time than Manchester United? I honestly think he'd get the same game time at United as he'd get at Liverpool. I'm going to be so honest with you. And again, the reason I would go for this deal is a few reasons. Can play across the front three. We need more wingers in the squad. The only 2 wingers we've got is Mbeumo and Ahmad, and they're both on the right. Semenyo can play right, he can play left, it doesn't matter. Versatile type forward, which usually have been very, very successful at Manchester United, and Premier League proven, would come straight into the team, very good age, I think he would take us up another level. I mean, I wish we had Semenyo yesterday. I absolutely wish we had Semenyo yesterday. We need a deeper squad, especially if we're trying to going to try and get Europe. I think it's imperative. So I'd be going for him. And I think it's good to hear that the interest is ongoing, and that's coming from a really good source in David Ornstein. So United hold interest. It's just whether they can get the buy-in from Semenyo and whether they can truly spend 60, 65 million on another forward player when they've just dropped a lot of money on forwards, because we know we need midfield. We need 2 midfielders at least. We need 2 wing-backs probably. They're key positions for us. I also think we need more goal scorers though in the team, and Semenyo does fit into that bracket for me. And then also, just to kind of finish off, Conor Gallagher. Conor Gallagher is on the agenda as well, and it is coming out from Sky Sports Lyle that Premier League clubs are now expected to queue up for Conor Gallagher in January if Atletico Madrid allow him to leave. Atletico reportedly do not want to loan him out, despite Gallagher wanting more minutes to make a late push for England's World Cup squad. The Premier League clubs the only Premier League clubs not showing interest are Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool and Man City. So apparently all other Premier League clubs are showing interest. The only ones not showing interest are Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool and Man City. So, you know, teams that you'd expect to be towards the top of the Premier League there. So that shows that United are interested in Conor Gallagher. Would you go for that move in January? It's difficult for me because in order to get the likes of an Elliot Anderson and Adam Wharton, the top players, and Angelo Stiller, you really got to be able to pitch them Champions League football in the summer. None of them players will be available for the summer, but you've really got to be able to pitch them Champions League football. With our current squad, I struggle to see us getting Champions League football. With our current midfield, I struggle to see us getting Champions League football. So you think to yourself, bring Joao Gomes in, bring a Conor Gallagher in, we can make a play for Champions League football. But then if you bring them two in, they're taking up 2 positions in the squad already, and you've spent a chunk of your budget. Because I don't think Atletico Madrid are going to let Conor Gallagher go on just a straight loan. They're going to want a loan obligation to buy. They're probably going to want at least 35 million as an obligation. Joao Gomes is going to cost 40. Before you know it, you could have spent 75 million on 2 midfielders that are going to be squad players. So yeah, they could aid us to help us get Champions League, but then they could also take up positions in the squad that we want to fill with better players. So it's a difficult one for me. I'd rather go for Joao Gomes. I think we should only get one of them. I think we should go for one. I think we've got to go for one to try and boost that midfield from now until the end of the season. I don't think we go for both. And if we were going to go for one, I'd go for Joao Gomes, because I just think he's got a little bit of a higher ceiling for the future. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Fine Dash says it's a low move. Yeah, a low move, but they're going to... I think that Atletico Madrid, considering they don't want to let him go, I think they'd want to do an obligation or an option to buy, which is what they tried to do in the summer as well. We've got some more super chats in here. Who to Blame says they believe their own hype too much. They think they'll win before the game even starts. I don't know. I mentioned this on the show yesterday. Is it a mentality thing that you feel like you have to win because it's 10 men at Old Trafford, and then it just kind of you can't get past that? You've got too much. You feel like there's too much pressure there to go and get the win. I do not know what it is. But we do seem to do better when our backs are against the wall. Haydar says, I don't know if everyone watches games. Everton game looked like Spurs and Forest without our wonder goals to save us. Will this football get you where you want? And you know what, Haydar, I think that's a really, really, really good point. I think that's a really good point. Forest was not a good performance. Spurs was meh. Let's actually be honest about this now. I'm gonna look at this before the show ends. Okay, so the start of the season, we'll go to the start of the season. Arsenal, good performance. That's one good performance. We lost, but it's a good performance. Fulham, no. Grimsby, no. Burnley, I'm sorry, I'm going to say no. City, no. Chelsea, first half was. I'll give it for Chelsea for the first half. Brentford, absolutely not. Sunderland, yeah, I thought Sunderland was a good performance. Liverpool, that was a good performance. Brighton, that was a good performance. So them 3 games in a row were really, really good. Forest, no. Tottenham, no. Everton, no. 5 good performances out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 5 good performances out of 13 games. so far in this Premier League season. The Grimsby game I counted, actually, so that was the League Cup. So 5 good performances so far this season out of 13 games. Is that good enough? It's a question I ask you guys, is that good enough? It's not good enough for my standards of Manchester United. I know Rome wasn't built in a day, but I'm becoming more frustrated because I'm not even seeing signs. I'm not even seeing a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel. For example, do you know when you're on like a really, really long walk or a really long run, but you know where you're finishing, and it might be a really long road, but you can kind of see it right at the end, like the finishing point. You can see the finishing line. Or you can see, you know, the station at the end that has all the water there and like the refreshments, and you're thinking, oh, at least I can see something. I can see a glimmer of light, a glimmer of hope. I can't see much at the moment to keep me going down this path, to keep me pushing towards that finishing line. There's really little to go off, really little. We've got a couple more comments coming in. Ryan Jack said, you're just adding more pressure, have patience. We're Manchester United. I think some people forget that. There's supposed to be pressure at Manchester United. We should be competing for the best titles in the world. I don't expect that from Amorim this season, but I expect better football than what I'm seeing. I expect more than 12 years. I expect more than 12 wins within a year of a Manchester United tenure as a manager. I do. I'm sorry. And if my patience is too thin to expect more than 12 years. 12 years. Why do I keep saying that? If my patience is too thin to expect more than 12 wins within a year, then my patience is too thin. Clearly, if I'm a bad guy for saying I want to see us score some more goals, I want to see us have a plan B, I want to see us stop being embarrassed against teams that aren't even that good, then I'm sorry, I've not got enough patience. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, aren't they? It is what it is. Anyway, smash a like on the video, everyone. Let me know how you're feeling. This was a lot of unpacking of my feelings right now, and I really don't like to be reactionary. I don't want to be reactionary, and I want to make it clear. I want this club to be successful. I want this team to be successful. I want this manager to be successful. But most importantly, more than anything, Manchester United has to win. It has to play good football, and we have to compete for the highest honours. Are we on that track currently? That's just a question that I'm having internally with myself, and I want us to get back to the top as quickly as possible, whichever path gets us there sustainably. Let's see what happens. Thank you everyone for watching. Really appreciate everyone staying with me. Thank you for all of your comments. Get in the comments down below. Would you go for Joao Gomes? Would you go for Conor Gallagher? Do you think we have any chance of going getting Anton Semenyo? Let me know your thoughts. What are your thoughts on Amorim at this moment in time as well? Stay safe, everyone. Try and not let the frustration of the game get to you too much. Last super chat from Luco. No one sees Dallo, just laughing at our team on the bench. I mean, I didn't see that. I was in the stadium, so I didn't see the camera angles. But look, thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you on the next one.